Hello and welcome to the Truth Platform. I'm Shay, and today I have a special guest. Her name is Rose Teniente. She is going to tell us about her organization and what she represents. Today, Jay is not with me because he's actually standing behind the camera. So anyway, Rose, how are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I am good, thank you. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Okay, so I'm actually a military spouse. My husband is active duty Air Force, and so we got stationed here about 3.5 years ago. So we live here in Lillington, and and it's been pretty great. I'd never been to North Carolina before that.
Wow.
I'm from New England, and I've lived overseas. Have traveled around to different parts of the U.S. Had never made it to either of the Carolinas, like anywhere in the South. So it was definitely new for me, but it's been really good. And I work in social services, not for Harnett County, but for a different county, doing performance management, data analysis, special projects, and things like that. So
that is awesome. So since you've been in North Carolina, what do you think of the Carolinas altogether?
I mean, the second I got here, mind you, we came from New Mexico. That was our last duty station. And so just, after I rented a car and got out of RDU, I was just like, oh my goodness, it's so green here. And so that was good. And it's definitely different. I mean, I always kind of feel like a bit of an outsider, being from New England. But I've met fantastic people here. It's part of military life. Everywhere you go, it's like you find new family, and that's how it's been here too. So
that's awesome. Okay, so I know you have an organization called Breathe. So can you tell us what Breathe is all about?
For sure. So Breathe stands for Board for a Racially Equitable and Transformed Harnett. So that is what Breathe stands for. So it is an acronym. But it was also developed to honor the deaths of Black folks who have been killed by police and as a result of racism in this country. So, I started it after the death of George Floyd last summer, and so basically Breathe's name is to honor and remember those folks who have lost their lives. And the focus of Breathe is to raise awareness of racial disparities in Harnett County and work towards dismantling them. And so we publish data on racial disparities in Harnett County. We present data to the Board of Commissioners, the Board of Health, anyone who will listen, and because I think it's really easy for people to disconnect from some really dark stuff that has been going on in our country, and it's still going on.
Right, absolutely.
And I have a pamphlet for you on racial disparities in Harnett County. This is our Breathe brochure, the Breathe brochure, and it has the data in here is not like all encompassing. This is just part of the disparities that are going on in Harnett County. And so what are disparities? So basically it's where you can see that whole groups of people. For example, in Harnett County, we have about 21% of the county is made up of Black residents, about 13% is Hispanic, biracial is 3%, and then also our Asian and Native American population is 1%. The rest, 61%, are white folks. And so when you break things out by race, you see that Black folks are not doing okay, and neither are our Hispanic residents living in Harnett County, and also Native Americans. We still do have a very small Native American population, but Lillington is actually on the historic Native American lands of the Coharie Native Americans. So, so they're also still here, and so when you look at those disparities, you can see things where you always see that white people are doing so much better. And mind you, it's not great. In America, we do not invest in ourselves. We do not give enough money for, our children's education, higher education. investing in, social services, we do not do enough of that. And so trust me, we, as a country, we could be doing so much better. But when you break it out by race, you just see how minorities in Harnett County are just doing so much disproportionately worse.
I didn't realize that the numbers was the way that they are, that I'm looking here, like 61% white people, 21% black people, 13% Hispanics, 3% biracial, and 1% Native Americans. I had no idea that it was like this, and for you to take the time to break that down, that's absolutely amazing.
Well, it's truth, and it's all out there. It's on the U.S. Census Bureau. Like, I would never put out anything fake, nothing that I felt I could not stand behind.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the data here is from the U.S. Census Bureau and American Community Survey through the U.S. Census. The North Carolina DHHS website publishes a lot of health statistics.
Right.
So then I even cite a website on policing data for Harnett County. And then another great organization that I cited data from, but they pulled their sources from, are all from the Department of Public Instruction and the Department of Public Safety, DPS. So all of this data is publicly available. I didn't have to go bribing anyone to get it,
right.
But you have to put it out there like that, because if you just tell people, there's something really unfair going on, if you don't see it laid out like that, then you say, you're not going to believe it. And so and when you also see that, wait, this is for Harnett, I think it's easy to, say, oh, well, it's a US problem. But when you see, no, this is Harnett's, and this is where we live, and this is our county.
Right.
And these are our neighbors, and these are our friends, and these are our coworkers and our employees. And am I okay that as a white woman, on median income, I earn $13,000 more than black women here and $14,000 more than Hispanic women? I don't think that's okay. I know I'm not necessarily working so much harder than they are, and to me that is not okay. And so that's what we're aiming to do, raise awareness of this. The data in here is, some of this stuff is really just heartbreaking. So we have income, housing, and poverty inequity, showing that Black and Hispanic residents are living disproportionately in poverty. So yes, by raw numbers, because we have more white people living in Harnett County, yes, there will be more white people living in poverty, but there's a significantly higher percentage of Black and Hispanic folks living in poverty, so it's not proportionate. Black infants, they have died at 2 times the rate consistently over the past, I would say probably at least decade in Harnett County. Should we be okay with that? No. We should, so we have to say no, this is not acceptable. In North Carolina, Black women dying at 3 to 4 times the rate of white women, in childbirth. No, there's something wrong here. And, and maybe it's easy to say, someone could say, oh, well, on earnings, you could say, oh, well, they're not working as hard as I am. But when you show all of these different areas consistently, they've even done research where they actually isolated for income and education. So people couldn't say, well, Black women are dying disproportionately and it's a poverty issue. No, even when they isolate to control for education and income, so analyzing women of the same income level, the same education, Black women are still dying disproportionately in childbirth. So when you're looking at all of that, you have to say to yourself, you know what, it's not the people, it's the environment.
Right.
And that's where we need to make some changes.
So do you think that this is not one of the questions that I have on here? So you think that with all this going on and knowing the information that you're presenting and you're putting out, you think that it's going to make a difference?
It already is. So and it's slow going, but change is being made. So after months of turning up to Harnett County School Board meetings and sharing the data on educational disparities in Harnett County, the school board is finally implementing a diversity and equity committee comprised of different principals from around the county, 2 school board members, that includes Miss Vivian Bennett and Jason Lemons.
Miss Bennett, she was my teacher.
Yeah.
Yay.
Well, she's on it. And actually, I remember the meeting, hearing where they were doing it, and she was like, I want to be on that committee. And I was just like, yes. So, and then also
awesome.
Jermaine White, who's the Deputy Superintendent of Student Services. So they're leading it, but then they're bringing in a lot more people. And that's also after emailing this data on educational disparities in Harnett County. I emailed every single principal in the county. So,
wow.
And said, hey, this is out here. And I also sent them resources, and it's saying like, hey, I know you care about kids, you're not in this line of work if you don't care about kids. And so if you see this and you think something's wrong, we need to take action. And so I provided resources on a federally funded nonprofit that's actually, their purpose is to assist school districts in improving educational inequities. So
wow.
So I'm super excited about that. They're having discussions at the county at establishing a racial equity board, as well as looking at their own organizational practices and organizational culture at Harnett County government. So change is definitely being made, and it's a matter of being persistent, and it's also a matter of connecting people and being a place for people to rally around this. And I know that people here care about this, but when you feel like you're by yourself and you feel like nothing's going to change, it's really easy to just be like, you know what, I'm just going to go along and live my life as best as I can and not make a fuss about this.
And I think that's what has happened over the years. A lot of people are just like, oh well, it's not going to change.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing's going to stay. I mean, it's always going to stay the same. So it's good that the change, you can see the change that is actually happening and coming about from this. So thank you for bringing that all to the limelight.
Well, yes, I started by myself, because I was angry. So, I was angry about all of this data that I found. I was angry after I presented it at a Harnett County Board of Commissioners meeting in July of last year. So this is after, the deaths of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd. I present all of this data at the Board of Commissioners, and along with some other folks that came too. And one of the commissioners, who's no longer a commissioner, we for one, he fought me on the data, and and he's like, well, you didn't include data on Hispanic folks, thinking Hispanic folks have it a lot worse. In some areas, our Hispanic residents do. In some areas, they don't, including maternal outcomes and birth outcomes. And but after that meeting, we were in the parking lot, and he, started chatting. He's like, the issue is, and this is what this man said to me, we need to change Black culture. I can't give a job away to a Black guy. And that was his response after me sharing data on health disparities, educational disparities, income. And this income is based on people working full time. This isn't, oh, the whole chunks are only working part-time jobs. No, this is they're working just as hard, and so that was his response. And then on another phone call, the same county commissioner was laughing at me as I was talking about, Black infant mortality and how doctors in this country, do not treat Black folks with the right level of care when they go into the hospital. There's a lot of bias and discrimination that happens in healthcare, and there was actually a study that found doctors and med students still perceive Black patients to feel less pain than white patients.
I heard it was all in the type of insurance that you had too. And that makes a difference in the type of care that you receive as well. That
very well could be. If you go in, with publicly funded insurance, Medicaid, yes, you may be discriminated based on that, but just the implicit bias, or and sometimes it's not intentional. Those doctors aren't thinking it, but they're doing it. I think maybe you might remember there was a Black woman who was a doctor a couple months ago, maybe more than a couple months ago. She actually died of COVID, and she took a video and put it on Facebook detailing just the awful treatment that she received. And she's trying to explain her concerns to her white male doctor, and he's disregarding her concerns. She's also a doctor. She's a physician.
Right.
And, the level of care that she got was not okay. And so when doctors and healthcare professionals perceive Black patients as feeling less pain, that has some really serious implications for the quality of healthcare that they're going to receive. So, but yeah, this county commissioner thought it was funny. He was laughing at me on the phone. So thankfully he's not a county commissioner anymore, because that is not what Harnett's Black residents need in an elected official.
Exactly. That is awesome. So with everything that you said, like, I know that once this video gets out, people are going to want to know. So can you tell us how they will be able to get involved with Breathe?
Yes. So, and remember I told you, so yes, I did start Breathe, but Breathe is not a one-woman show. So I actually have some fantastic fellow board members, Mr. Jaquavius Cameron included. We have Elder Hannah Broom of the Dunn-Lillington District A&E Zion. We have Tamika Dowdy, who is an entrepreneur, business owner, and she also she has her tax business, but she also has a nonprofit focused on mentoring youth. So the This Has to Stop movement. And then we also have Mr. Kevin Thurman, who is a fellow Master of Public Administration, like myself. He's like, you're my MPA brother. So yeah, so and so he's out, I believe, in the Dunn area. So we have some great folks. We are looking to bring more people on. We are going to be starting a Facebook group, because we have a Facebook page currently.
And what's the name of that page?
Breathe Harnett.
Breathe Harnett?
Yes. So yeah, we also have an Instagram, just Breathe Harnett. But on Facebook pages, sometimes people don't want to comment because it's public and everyone can see it. And so what we want to do is create a Facebook group so we can actually bring in more people to be involved that can be advocates for equity in their own community. Because for one, 5 people can't be everywhere at once, and so I want to get more citizens involved in learning how to collect this data for their own town, because you can break out information like this by city. So you could compile data like on Irwin, for median income of Irwin by like race and gender, and say, whoa, and you could bring that to your Irwin town commissioners and say, what, we're not okay with this, what changes can we make to just make life better for people living here. So
right, absolutely.
And we are going to be having a listening session. So Breathe Harnett is actually a partner organization with Black Voters Matter. And so if anyone is interested in, for one, receiving updates from Black Voters Matter, you can text 797979, and they will loop you in just on updates from Black Voters Matter. They're doing Get Out the Vaccine events around North Carolina. They pull up with what my friend Danielle calls it, the biggest, blackest bus in America, she says. And so they actually had a whole Get Out the Vaccine block party in Greensboro the other weekend. And I forget how many folks they vaccinated, but I think it was maybe at least 7,000, I think.
Wow.
So there's that. And so in conjunction with Black Voters Matter, we're doing a Harnett County listening session on April 12th at 6:30. We're going to be posting that information on our Facebook page. And the purpose of it is to bring regular community residents, centering the voices of Black residents, okay? It's not a time for white people to come in and start saying what they think Black people need. It's a time for, Black community members to share concerns about things going on in the community. And while we will be inviting elected officials, but it's not a time for elected officials to monopolize the conversation. It's a time for them to listen to their constituents. So that's going to be happening on April 12th. So please join us for our listening session on April 12th.
That is so awesome. So I have one more question,
Sure.
And that last question is, what advice would you give someone who has concerns about what you represent, like who has an issue and say, I need to know what I need to do. So what advice would you give someone?
For someone concerned about all of these like disparities, or
Yes.
concerned about like the operations of Breathe Harnett, or
Not your operations, as far as the actual disparities
Oh.
and racial inequality and things of that nature.
For one, they can always send us a message, you know, and like, we're here for you, and like, we are here because we're not okay with this, and we need more people to not be like okay with the data that's in here. You know, that's the goal, is to get people aware and hopefully a little bit riled, you know, so that, and then with that, it's time to take action and mobilize, you know, for a lot of county commissioner meetings, and you can go back and listen to those county commissioner meetings. They're recorded, and I rarely miss one to give a chance to provide input and let those county commissioners know what's on my mind, you know, and racial disparities in Harnett is what's on my mind. So, you know, but guess what? That's open to anyone to make public comment during those periods. You have your town commissions, you know, your town board of commissioners. So if you're in that town and, you know, and you see that, you know what, folks aren't doing so okay here, like, we want a statement from you on this. Like, what can you do to help make improvements? Because, you know, you're our elected official, so we're looking to you. Like, we don't expect you to fix this overnight, but, you know, you need to acknowledge that this is going on.
Absolutely. And
then work to make improvements and work to make your constituents' lives better. Myself, I am also on the Harnett County Commission for Women and Youth. I'm also on the Harnett County Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, and both of those give me a chance to interact with other community leaders, to work on initiatives that make change. Right now with the Harnett Commission for Women and Youth, we're working on putting together a survey that will kind of help us inform the Board of Commissioners on the status of women in the county. And you better believe that income inequality for women, and also broken out by races, going in that report that we give to them at some point. But those are ways to get involved, you know, with different specific organizations, different boards and commissions. Vacancies always come available. And also, if you are in an area where you can run for office, think about running for office. I don't think there were enough people that ran for office in 2020, and there are organizations to support you if you want to run for office. There's an organization called Run for Something, and you can learn about, you know, things that you need to do. There's also the North Carolina State Board of Elections, and they've got information on their site as well. So my biggest advice is, if you see something that you're not okay with, you know, it's not okay to, you know, sit around and complain about it. You know, you have to take action. Right. You know, and I heard today, power is the ability to take action. So with that, guess what? We all have power. So it's just a matter of using it and taking action. And I always say, you know what, if I'm going to be biased towards one thing, it's that I'm going to be biased towards action as opposed to sitting still. So that sometimes gets me in a little bit of trouble. So, but, you know, but that's the only way I really know how to be. So,
all right. So if the listeners and the people who are watching, if they say, well, oh my gosh, like, I love this, excuse me, how can I donate to the cause? How will they be able to donate or support Breathe Harnett?
So, on the back of this brochure, and I'll tell you, we have a Cash App if you would like to send any cash donations. It helps us print brochures and do things, because guess what? It costs money to print brochures.
Of course.
It costs money to keep.
It costs money to do anything.
And also, we put up 4 Black Lives Matter billboards in Harnett County last year. Unfortunately, you know, it's expensive to keep them up, but we had Black Lives Matter like in big, you know, letters right up in Lillington, across from the dealership in the food line over there. We also put up a Black Lives Matter billboard on 95 South, just a couple miles before the big Confederate Confederate flag. So
All right.
yeah, so, and also I repeatedly asked the Board of Commissioners last year to declare that racism was a public health crisis. And, you know, they wouldn't. And so we put up a billboard stating that racism is a public health crisis. So that was up for, I think, 3 months. So all of that costs money. And so we crowdfunded, raised money, you know, reached out to some different organizations. A great organization to follow is Emancipate NC. They're doing a ton of work with, you know, not just putting up billboards, but they have like attorneys on staff, and they do not hesitate to file lawsuits when they see that something's not okay. And they're a fantastic organization, Emancipate NC. So, and Black Voters Matter. So I would encourage you to follow both of those organizations too. But as far as supporting Breathe Harnett, giving us a like on Facebook, interact with our posts. Don't be afraid to say what you think. Tell us what you'd like to see more of. We are going to be getting that Facebook group up and running. And again, if you'd like to donate, Breathe Harnett on Cash App. And on our Facebook page, we have a survey that is pinned to the top. It's also on the back of our brochure. And the short URL for it is just bit.ly/breathe survey. And so far we've had about 130 respondents, and
That's awesome.
Yeah, and and folks of all races in Harnett County, and letting us know what they think about racism, bias in Harnett County, law enforcement in Harnett County. What actions do they think our commissioners should do in order to make some changes? And so I have actually presented some of that data to the county commissioners, and I was able to tell them, look, you know, of the 130 respondents, like 75%, which includes, you know, Black residents, white residents, Hispanic, you know, Asian, like everyone, thinks that you guys could be doing more to address racial disparities in the county. And that's pretty good to be able to have something like that and be like, look at this. So, you know, this is what people are asking of you. So please do that so we can keep on being persistent.
That is so awesome. Thank you so much, Rose, for coming today and talking to us about the racial inequality in Harnett County. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Rose Tinier. Thank you so much, and until next